From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall. Good show tonight, talking about planning for your future, or maybe the future of someone you love. How do you pay for the high cost of nursing home care? How do you set up a trust or a will? All kinds of different things we can talk about. Happy to have someone here who can answer these questions for you. Call in with your question or situation. He can help work through it. Tim Takis, thank you for being here. Once again.
Good to be back.
Always happy to have you.
Right here on a nice hot night.
I know, very
nice after a great holiday weekend.
So I always am interested, what are you seeing this time of year? You come on, fairly regularly. What is coming through your door like today, this past week, this season?
Well, it's interesting, today, Tuesdays in our office is what we call estate planning day, because we try to see our clients who are coming in to do estate planning. So we had a gentleman that came in who's in his late 60s. He's been married before. We remarried. He's still friendly with his first wife, and now he's got a second wife, and they married 4 years ago. And so he comes in without his wife, which is somewhat unusual, and he says, well, I want to do some estate planning. And then, of course, immediately you start thinking about, well, are things going wrong or whatever it is? No, his wife knows he's there and whatever it is. So, so they come in and, like a lot of people do who are now, older people, they, believe it or not, older people remarry, late in life, and then of course they have their own set of issues about what happens if, when I get older and if I die first, what if my wife gets sick, what if I get sick, do I have to support my wife if she's in the nursing home or vice versa, can I leave everything to my children, do I have to leave something to my spouse? All of those things come into play.
I bet that is a big question.
Yeah, it really is.
Generally speaking, and see, there's so many different ways we can go, and I'm always interested in talking, but do you have to leave something to your spouse, or could you just leave it all to the kids? If you have a will, you can do whatever you want, right? Yeah. Right.
But, I always say is that you can only, the only person that you can't disinherit is your spouse, which means that people get married and they think, well, my spouse will never, she'll never claim against my estate or whatever it is because we have an understanding. And I've had that case before where there was really no understanding. But it is literally true or legally true that if you are married to somebody, it doesn't matter whether you're married for 5 months or 50 years, and then you pass away and you disinherit your spouse has a right to claim against your estate. And I forget the percentages offhand, because many years ago the legislature said, well, if you've been married for 10 years, I believe, then your spouse is allowed to claim up to 40%. So
there were actual
there are actually percentages. Yeah. So like the first year maybe 10% or whatever it is. So so who knows? People out there waiting to see how long I'm going to live and how long we're going to be married. But I mean, it's legally true is that unless your spouse consents, then you have to leave your spouse something. In which case, so you die, and then if the spouse says, well, I want to file a claim, then the spouse files a claim and they get whatever percentage that they're entitled to.
Now, the other big issue is, let's say you're caring for a parent, and you're wanting what's best for that parent, but at some point, they're going to have to go to a nursing home.
Right.
How do you begin to plan for that? You want to keep their resources intact as much as possible. Right. But we've talked about how much does a nursing home cost, and what are some of the things somebody who's maybe caring for a parent should be thinking about?
Right. So first of all, answer the question first about how much does a nursing home cost, and the average cost of a nursing home nationwide is almost $90,000 a year. And in Tennessee it runs around $80,000 a year. So we're pretty well close to the national average, and probably in the Middle Tennessee area we're probably right around, if not above. So we're $7,000 a month is what you can figure if you're in the Nashville area.
But now, I would think most people just cannot afford that.
And they really can't. I mean, we all know. And so, most people, I think I've read somewhere that the average older person has maybe enough to cover 6 to 7 months of nursing home care before they have to start seeking help from either the government or family or friends or something else, or so that's pretty much the way that works. So when you start thinking about, okay, you're caring for an older parent, and you're starting to think about nursing home care, one of the things that we always say is that although it's never too late to do something, the earlier you get started, the more planning and the more perhaps successful planning that we can do. I know a lot of our viewers, regular viewers, have heard about like a 5-year Medicaid look-back period, and what that means is that, and we've talked about that on the show a lot, about giving money or property away, and should you do that, and if you do, will the government penalize it? And we have a lot of those situations. People walk into the office and, should I give my house to my kids? Should I do this? Should I do that? And all of those we have to very carefully weigh as to, how long is it going to be before you might ever need nursing home care? Can you expect to pay privately if you don't make through the 5-year look-back period? Should you transfer money or property to a trust? Because if you give money to your children thinking they're going to hold it, I often say is that bad things happen to children. And if you've been doing this as long as I have, maybe 99 out of 100 times it will work out, maybe. But there's always that 100, that 1 out of 100 time or whatever where it doesn't work out. And I've seen children die, or children wind up having creditor problems, and then the next thing you know, the money is gone.
Is another fascinating scenario where,
absolutely,
somebody says, okay, I'm going to protect my money,
right,
and I'm going to give it to my very responsible daughter.
Right.
I'm going to put my house in my daughter's name, or I'm going to put my savings account in my daughter's name. And I fully expect that my daughter will do nothing but what is best and will care for me, and nothing will go wrong.
Exactly. And and I know that a lot of viewers will probably say, or probably a lot of our clients are, they walk in and they might say, oh, well, I can trust my daughter. And I say, well, it's not about a question of trust. What it is a question about is that your daughter may get out on the road, and in a moment's inattention, she hits a bus full of school children. And she's not going to be able to tell the parents of those children that, oh, well, that's mom's money. You can't have it. And so those parents going, no, it looks like that's your money, and you need to use that money to take care of our children.
Yeah, so there's some horrible thing like that. Or
right.
if she gets divorced, right?
Exactly.
Even though it's the mom's money, I don't know how that worked, but couldn't the husband come after that?
Well, what happens is that ordinarily and I think that's a good point is that, okay, I'm going to give my daughter $100,000 and I know she's going to hold it. So the daughter says, okay, I'm going to set this money over here and I'm going to put it in my name only, and then let's say that they are going through a divorce and then mom needs that money. Well, maybe eventually that money is going to be the daughter's, but you have to have a judge that decides that first. So is that the daughter's money or not? Is it? Did she seek the advice of her husband or her spouse? How to invest it? Was the married couple relying on that money for some other things that they were trying to do? So all of those sorts of things come into play, which is why we almost always, we almost never want to rely just on setting money aside in children's names, because that's why
you would almost never recommend just give the house to the child.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I just can't remember. No. I really can't remember the last time I ever did that.
Right.
I mean, I've had people, I remember years and years ago, we're talking about like 15 years ago, I remember these two ladies that walked into my office, and she goes, well, our parents want to give their house to us, okay? And I'm going, okay, well, tell me more about this. Well, they live in like some nice part of Hendersonville where, people were buying their houses like in their 50s, like in the 1950s, and those $30,000 houses are now worth $600,000 or $700,000 or more.
Wow.
So she said, I remember the one daughter saying is that, well, everybody on our parents' block is giving their house to their kids, and all I could think of is that, okay, back then we have a Tennessee gift tax, and also when you give away property that has a low tax basis like that, so it's got a $30,000 tax basis, and they give the house to their kids and then they die, and now the children have that low tax basis, and then when they sell the house, they have like a $600,000-$700,000 capital gain.
Wow.
You know, and I used to say, you know, I would say sometimes, I say, you know, that would pay for a lot of nursing home care, the taxes that you pay. You know, whereas I know it's a concept that it's kind of hard to, you know, explain in like 50 words or less.
Right.
You know, but you know, sometimes the way we put it is that death is often a pretty good thing, especially for the beneficiaries, because they get a step up in tax basis. So, you know, mom and dad they own the house since 1960, and they bought it for $30,000, and then when they die, it's worth $700,000. You know, and the children then inherit it at a $700,000 tax basis. So then when the children turn around and sell it for $700,000, zero capital gain.
Wow. Okay, I didn't
But
know
if mom and dad had given them the house and then say 6 months later they died and sold it for $700,000, there'd be a $670,000 capital gain that the children would have to pay taxes on.
That's all fascinating. Okay, we're going to take a break. All right, Francis and Kevin, hold on the line. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break, and then we'll take your calls right after this.